Hi there, everyone. It's Misty here with Stamp Anything. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Fannie Friday. In today's video, I am going to be working with Fern and Lief from the March release. This fairy themed release is so adorable. And I knew that I wanted to do something completely different. So this is my hex chart, and I can't color without it. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a very integral part of my coloring. So I decided that I wanted to make their skin kind of like a light sea foam color. I wanted this to be very fantastical. I know most of the design team, or actually all of the design team, went with a more realistic skin tone, but I wanted to do just something completely different. And I had this idea, I wanted this kind of blue or green fairy with translucent wings. And it took me 2 days to figure out how to get it done, but here we go. So I will have a link to this month's release. I will have a link to all the supplies I used, basically just obsidian ink, and then of course the stencil in just a little bit. But I will also list out the markers that I use for you in the description box. If you're in the Facebook group, I will include that with the post there. So I am using G00, G000, and G000. And it gave this really pretty effect. Here I am trying to find my colorless blender. Where could it have gone? Because I had literally just used it. And what's really silly is that I've literally just redone my desk, and I knew where everything was, and everything has a home and everything has a place. I normally keep that colorless blender in my kind of gray area of my Copic storage. And if you're in the group, you've seen my Copic storage. And if I can remember, I'll throw up a picture of it. So, but it wasn't there. And I honestly can't remember where I'd put it, to be quite honest. This was a couple of days ago. So anyway, so I am coloring like I normally do. I've mentioned before that I like to color darkest to lightest, and then go back over it and darken up the more dark and try to leave the light not with a really stark contrast, but I knew that I wanted their faces to be very bright in the center. And since Anne gave us the most adorable freckles on all of the images this month, I added some cheeks without blending them out. And I did that mostly because if you blend out R20 with green, it doesn't look the best. So, but I kind of like it where their flush is pretty prominent. So for Lief, he has a lot of great hair, and it's mostly all in his face. So his face is actually darker than Fern's, and that's because he would have way more shadow. Now, I've mentioned before, I'm not someone who pays a whole lot of attention to a light source, so to speak. I know that more seasoned marker colorers, etc., are more attuned to that, but I'm not. I just like to color. I'm just a crafter. I'm not professional or anything. So, but at the end of the day, how you color is always really personal. I find that everybody colors different. Like, I feel like I have to have 3 or 4 markers, and I know some people who can make 1 marker or 2 markers work beautifully. So for the hair, I knew that I wanted a pink, and this is actually a pink combo I haven't used before, but you will see again. So for the hair, I'm using RV 14, 13, and 21. And if you've been with me with any length of time, you know that I normally use 06, 04, 02. But I wanted something a bit more saturated, and I find that sometimes there's not enough contrast with those 3 colors. But I also didn't want to bring in like RV09, which would have taken this more in like a purpley pink direction. And I wanted it to be a more pink hair. So I am using those, and I am leaving a pretty big white space on his hair. And that's because I don't leave a white highlight. That's just not how I like to color hair. But I do make sure that it's lightened up. and I started having issues. Oh, that's later, but I was trying to use RV02. I swear I just bought that marker, but it's out of ink. And I was like, gosh darn it. So that's another reason why I kind of went with this color scheme. And there you can see that I'm not leaving any white in his hair, but there's definitely some brightness to it. So I'm not going to lie, my original idea was not how this card actually ended up. My original idea was I wanted it to look like they were flying in a night sky, and I just could not make a background work that I really liked. And then I thought, you know what, let's go in a whole different direction and let's make them bright and airy and fun. And I feel like I accomplished that. You guys will have to let me know what you think of the card in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. For Fern, she has a lot of space where her hair would be pulled back into her little space buns. So I wanted to make sure that there was some highlights in that, but it's not a stark highlight like it is with Lief. But I still really love how her hair turned out. I love both of these. Like, this is probably one of my most favorite cards I've made in a really long time. I've mentioned in the past, and if you've been with me like on my channel, which is the Jolly Fed Elf, or if you've been with me here, I've mentioned before that I just have an idea in my head and I just sit down, turn on the camera and go. And sometimes it takes, a couple hours for me to get something out of my head. And sometimes it takes me a couple of days. And this was one of those instances where it took me a couple of days. And I deviated from what my original idea was, but I really like this better. So you guys, again, will have to let me know what you think of these little fairies in the comments down below. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. If you're interested in the March release, you can sign up for Stamp Club and get the release at a discount. There are 3 different levels. It is open internationally, and all of that information is linked down below. For her dress, now I will say the one thing that drives me nuts about Copic is the purple colors are weird, right? Like I don't feel like there's a true purple. Like, I don't feel like there's a true purple, but I found a combination that really worked for me, and it kept it more kind of light, not necessarily pastel, but also not saturated. And that was V04, 01, and 000. And then for her kind of dress, I did V04 at the bottom, and then I used RV02 and then RV10 to go up. And this is when I discovered that I needed a new RV02 or a reinker for that. Now, I wasn't paying attention, and I started coloring her wing thinking it was another part of her skirt. So that's why you see there's a little bit of color on her wings. And then I decided to go ahead and go with that RV10 on her shoes, and because they remind me of like ballet slippers, and I think they turned out real cute. For him, it's the complete opposite. I really wanted him to feel earthy, where she's, celestial and in the air and can fly. He is more like a ground fairy. So he's more someone who tends to the crops or tends to the flowers. That's why he has a stem. You know what I mean? So I made sure to keep his outfit more kind of like hide, like animal hide, etc. So I used E39, 29, and 35 to make his outfit. And the 3 of these colors together are gorgeous. The next time I color hair, I'm going to use that combination because I think it's just real pretty. I may even go to like 35 and then 33. For hair, sometimes I like to use 4 colors, depending on how much hair I have to play with. So once I have them colored, I am going to cut them out using their coordinating dies. I like to use washi tape for this. I have a million rows. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know what that truck is doing. I'm not sure why that truck wanted to be so rude and interrupt my voiceover. Okay, so this is the piece of vellum, and I've gone over it with the anti-static tool. If you don't have one of those, if you have an old dryer sheet, that would work, etc. It's not actually for this. It's not that important that there isn't any like oils, etc. on the vellum, because these are actually going to go in the back. So I have this embossing powder that's called Kaleidoscope. I bought this at Joann's like 13 years ago, 13 or 14 years ago. I've had it for forever. But as you can see, it's iridescent glitter. And I thought this would be perfect for the wings. Now, if I'd gone with my original idea of more of like a night sky, I think this would have made a bigger impact, but because I put them where I did, it's not as noticeable, but it's those little details that make a card so much fun. So here's another idea. So I knew that I wanted to bring in this stencil. And again, at the time I had a completely different idea for the background. So I decided to add this to her wings because her wings are, they're just basic wings. There's no veining, there's no decoration, there's none of that. So I thought that would be perfect. So after I heated her with the embossing tool, I went over it with first a mark and then went back over it. And so it's hard to see here, but in person and in pictures, you can see her. So I keep a package of Swiffer cloths in my drawer. And when I have glitter or something to clean up, I use that. Or I also have a cute little ladybug that is a vacuum. So either one of those will work. So I'm going to go ahead and cut both of these out with my, with the dies. And then I'm going to bring in just some scissors and I'm going to cut off both of their wings. Now for him, he has that spot kind of in the crook of his arm that is part of his wings. So I have this kind of pin. It's a pin that is actually a blade. And so I use that to get right in the middle. And then I am going to adhere them directly to their cutouts. And this just turned out to be so stinking cute. And I'm using liquid glue. That way I can move them around a little bit and get them, you know, exactly where they're supposed to be. So yeah, they turned out so cute. I love that embossing powder. I doubt they make it. In fact, I think it was from Stampendous, and who bought them out? I honestly don't remember, but yeah, but you can find any kind of glitter. If you have heat and stick, you can use any kind of glitter you wanted to. So I decided to use glitter paste with this, and I decided to use similar colors as I did to their bodies. So this is, I don't even know what brand these are, but these are the two that I wanted. And then I had this purple one that I really wanted to use, but it was completely dried out. And I think you can use jojoba oil or like glycerin to revive them. You guys will have to let me know if you have any hints or tips or tricks. So I knew that I wanted to use this as the background, and I had gone ahead, like I said, I had done something completely different and went with this, and I knew that I wanted her to have a bigger background than he did, and I wanted it opposite. So I went ahead and did that. I had to soak this stencil, and I still wasn't able to get all the glitter off, so proceed at your own risk. Okay, so I set that off to the side to dry, and then I am bringing in an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. I'm cutting it on the 11-inch side at 7, and then I'm scoring at 3.5. So my folded card base is 3.5 by 8.5, and then I'm cutting my layers down to 3.25 by 8.25. So I love 3.5 by 8.5 as a slimline size. Number one, you have plenty of room when you put it in a business envelope, so you can have, you know, pieces, parts, etc. hang off the card. But I also like this because I don't have to worry about, you know, 72 cuts and all of this extra cardstock in my collection. So I wanted to use the word die, and I decided to go ahead and color this piece of white that is the same kind of Copic paper that I normally color on, and do a similar effect that I did to her skirt. And I am going to cut the words and the tulip bud out of this little panel. So I'm using, like I said, the same exact colors that I used for her skirt. And as I mentioned, at this point, my RV02 was like dead, DEAD dead. So it took some maneuvering. It took a little bit of a maneuvering and got it done. And that was just a look at my desk, which was covered in glitter and all sorts of things. So I am lining these up and deciding where I want these to go. And then I am going to adhere them with washi tape. And then I am going to go ahead and cut around them so I can add double-sided adhesive to the back. So I've purchased some adhesive sheets from Amazon, and I like to use them when I'm doing skinny letters or any kind of small die cut. This is just such a huge time saver. I apologize that my phone was in the way, but I was texting my brother and chatting with a friend because I was like, I don't think I like this card. And she was helping me try to figure out what to do with it. She's an artist, like she paints, painting is her medium. But sometimes she'll ask me for advice and I'll ask her for advice. And so she was like, I think you need to do, something solid. And then I was like, you know what, let me do this ombre. So I didn't take her advice in the end, but that's why you see my phone in the way. I'm sorry about that. My phone is always on my desk when I am doing this. So for the word build to dry, I cut out the kind of offset, the background out of vellum, and then I'm just going to go ahead and adhere these down. So this basically becomes a sticker. And again, I don't have to worry about adding, little drops of glue. And when you get glue on vellum, it's a pain in the butt trying to get it off. So just making them into these stickers is the best option. Again, it's just double-sided adhesive sheets. You can find it on Amazon. Sizzix makes some. Scorepal makes some. These are just some off-brand I picked up off Amazon because I have zero patience. I need something like same day, next day. So I am using regular adhesive to adhere down the flower. So this is the same turquoise that is the card base, and that is something, I can't remember what it's called from MFT, tropical teal maybe. It's a really nice thick cardstock. And then again, like I said, I cut out the tulip using that same kind of ombre effect, and I'm just getting that adhered. I am going to bring in some liquid glue and just dot it on the back of the words because I don't want the glue to come through the vellum. I know they make vellum specific adhesive, but I don't use it enough for me to justify having a separate glue for it. You know what I mean? If I used it all the time, maybe, but I just don't. All right, so I am going to bring in some Scotch mounting foam for them because I wanted to pop up both of them. And I like to use Scotch because I can cut it to any size that I need it to be. It is time consuming for sure. But again, I don't have to worry about it being too thick, too thin. I hate having to, I will do it. I mean, I've done it before. I hate having to cut up the little squares though. And once I get them adhered, you guys, that's going to be it. So as I mentioned, this is completely not what I had in my brain, but I love, love, love how this card turned out. I love these little fairies so very much. I think they are stinking adorable. Again, this is available, and if you sign up for Stamp Club, you can choose to get this release or get the April release, which is also flipping adorable. April is my birthday month, so I may end up making a couple of birthday cards with next month's release. You have to let me know what you want to see in the comments down below. So once I get these adhered, that's going to be it, as I mentioned. So again, all of my supplies, the colors, etc., will be listed in the description box down below, along with a direct link to this month's release. Stamp Club, International Stamp Club, there's a link to all of our social media. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I try to post every Friday. A huge shout out to Kevin for taking care of the channel while taking care of the videos while I was recovering from COVID. But yeah, so anyway, this is it. How shiny. Look how cute those wings are. I absolutely love it. So that's it, friends. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate you. Again, be sure to follow us over on the Facebook group and subscribe here before you go. All right, I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.